Hello, third grade, and welcome back to music class. Today we're going to start talking about something new. We've been talking about melodies and how to read them and intervals, which are all really awesome skills that we're going to continue to use, but we're going to add a different level today. We're going to start talking about instruments and this fancy word called timbre. It looks like that's not how you would pronounce it, but it is. It looks like it says timbre, but it is timbre. And timbre talks about the fact that different voices, different instruments sound different from each other. Just like the way I talk is different from the way that you talk, instruments make different sounds based on what they're made of or how you play them. And that's what makes so many different interesting instruments, because they have different sounds. So we're also going to talk about percussion instruments today. Percussion instruments are instruments that make the sound by hitting it, scraping it, rubbing it, or shaking it. So let's look at some of those instruments and compare them today. So I'm going to bring up one first that you might have seen before. This one is called a tambourine. A tambourine you can actually make sound two ways. You can shake it, and you can also hit it. What makes the sound in here are these little metal discs that they shake and hit against each other and hit against the wood, and that creates that jingling sound that the tambourine makes. That's what makes it a percussion instrument. Now, if we compare, this one is made out of metal, and I've got another one that's made out of metal, so you think maybe they make similar sounds. This one is called a cabasa, and what I do with this one is I take my hand here and it's going to rub the beads against the metal part here. So this one is a rubbing one, and it's made out of similar things as the tambourine, but it creates a different type of sound, a different timbre. Let's look at something that doesn't have metal on it. This one right here is called a güiro. Now, a güiro makes it sound by scraping. So if I scrape against it, it makes kind of a silly sound. Sometimes people think it sounds like a frog. I think it does too. So when I scrape, it is made out of wood, and that is what creates its sound. And you can also see some holes in here. That allows the sound to vibrate inside and come out and be as loud as it is. So this one is called a güiro, and it is another percussion instrument. This one is being scraped, and that's what makes it a percussion instrument. Now another one I have, this one is called a maraca. I'm sure you've seen many of these before. They can be made out of lots of different things. This one is made out of wood, some are made out of plastic, and on the inside there are beads or beans or something that shakes around and makes its own different kind of sound. So this one is also a percussion instrument, and it's shaken. Now, I have a kind of a fun one that makes a really unique sound here. This is called a vibraslap. Now, when you put those together, slap, well, I think we're probably going to be hitting this instrument, and that's how it's going to make it sound. But vibra, that's kind of like a shortened version of vibrate. So we're going to have to see and look at what part of this is hitting and which part is vibrating. Here it goes. Did you see it? Let me try it again. Here we go. So this one, it's got different parts. I hit it onto my hand, and then on the inside, there are these metal things in here that shake against the wood to make the sound. And it also has the ball here to come down and kind of hit it as well. So this one's a really interesting instrument. You don't see it a lot in music, but it's very fun for sound effects. It's also made out of wood and metal, and it is both a hitting instrument, and I guess you could say there's shaking that's going on in there as well. All right, let's look at one that rubs. So these just look like normal wood blocks, but on the inside, there's something called sandpaper, and that's why these are called sand blocks. When you rub them against each other, it makes kind of like a grinding sound against each other. This is another different type of percussion instrument. That's what we're talking about, made out of wood and sandpaper, and is rubbing against each other. And that sounds different from other things that rub. So we've got the metallic cabasa where you rub it. and then compare that to the sand blocks, what they're made out of changes how they sound with each other. Let's see. This one is an interesting one. This is called a rain stick, and I'm not totally sure where it would be classified. I think it might be one that does shake, because when you flip it, all the beads in the inside are trickling down. So I guess that could be a hit one or a shake one, because you can also shake it. That one's a little bit of a mystery, but I know that it is also a percussion instrument. Something interesting about it too is you can see it really looks like it's made out of like a tree branch. So that's a different type of material. We've had some made out of wood, but this is really authentic. Looks like an old one and has some yarn for decorations. This one, I think I said the name, but it is called a rain stick, and when you turn it, it makes the rain sound. I think it's a very comforting sound and really interesting. So I want you to think about today, you know lots of different instruments out there, or you can come up with your own. A box can be a musical instrument because you hit on it. So I want you to think about, let's review what we said makes a percussion instrument. If it makes it sound by hitting on it, if it makes it sound by shaking, makes it sound by rubbing, or if it makes it sound by scraping against something, that is what makes a percussion instrument. So you've got a question on Google Classroom today asking you for an example of a percussion instrument. If you will go answer that with something that you might have seen in this video, or an instrument that you know makes those sounds one of those 4 ways, you'll be good to go. Also, I wanted to let you know that tomorrow I will be doing a live Zoom meeting for you to join. We'll be singing and playing games and whatever we want to do with the group of us that are there. So make sure to jump into that Zoom meeting tomorrow from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. And I look forward to seeing you then. I hope you have a great afternoon, and don't forget to fill out that question on Google Classroom. Bye, everybody.